If you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Okay guys, it is Sunday, February 10th, and it's 9:41 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be looking at the Q posts from today, and why not get started? All right, now we are here. The first thing we're going to look at, and we are picking up directly from where we left off with the last video, which was part 2 of February 9th, and we're going to look first at this link that Q has provided us. So let's go out and look at that now. And this is The Hill. Now that both House and Senate investigative committees have cleared Donald Trump of Democrat-inspired allegations of Russian collusion, it is worth revisiting one anecdote that escaped significant attention during the hysteria, but continues to have U.S. security implications. As Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton worked with Russian leaders, including Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and then President Dmitry Medvedev, to create U.S. technology partnerships with Moscow's version of Silicon Valley, a sprawling high-tech campus known as a word that I can't pronounce. Clinton's handprint was everywhere on the 2009-2010 project, the tip of the diplomatic spear to reboot U.S.-Russian relations after years of hostility prompted by Vladimir Putin's military action against the former Soviet Republic and now U.S. ally, Georgia. A donor to the Clinton Foundation, Russian oligarch Victor, another name I can't pronounce, led the Russian side of the effort, and several American donors to the Clinton charity got involved. Clinton's State Department facilitated U.S. companies working with the Russian project, and she personally invited Medvedev to visit Silicon Valley. The collaboration occurred at the exact time Bill Clinton made his now infamous trip to Russia to pick up a jaw-dropping $500,000 check for a single speech. The former president's trip secretly raised eyebrows inside his wife's State Department internal emails show. That's because he asked permission to meet the man whose name I can't pronounce, the head of Skolkovo, and another name I can't pronounce, a senior official of Rosatom, the Russian nuclear giant, seeking states' permission to buy Uranium-1, a Canadian company with massive U.S. uranium reserves. Years later, intelligence documents show both Skolkovo and Uranium-1 projects raised serious security concerns. And, well, yeah. In 2013, the U.S. military's leading intelligence think tank in Europe sounded alarm that the Skolkovo project might be a front for economic and military espionage. Oh, really? Skolkovo is an ambitious enterprise aiming to promote technology transfer generally by inbound direct investment and occasionally through selected acquisitions. As such, Skolkovo is arguably an overt alternative to clandestine industrial espionage, with the additional distinction that it can achieve such a transfer on a much larger scale and more efficiently. EUCOM's intelligence bulletin wrote in 2013. Implicit in Russia's development of Skolkovo is a critical question, a question that Russia may be asking itself. Why bother spying on foreign companies and government laboratories if they will voluntarily hand over all the expertise Russia seeks? A year later, the FBI went further and sent letters warning several U.S. technology companies that had become entangled with Skolkovo that they risked possible espionage, and an agent in the Bureau's Boston office wrote an extraordinary op-ed to publicize the alarm. So Skolkovo may be a means for the Russian government to access our nation's sensitive or classified research development facilities and dual-use technologies with military and commercial applications. Assistant Special Agent in Charge Lucia Ziobro wrote in the Boston Business Journal. The FBI had equal concern about Rosatom's acquisition of Uranium-1. An informer named William Douglas Campbell had gotten inside of the Russian nuclear giant in 2009 and gathered evidence that Rosatom's agents in the United States were engaged in a racketeering scheme involving kickbacks, extortion, and bribery. Campbell also obtained written evidence that Putin wanted to buy uranium-1 as part of a strategy to obtain monopolistic domination of the global uranium markets, including leverage over the U.S. Campbell also warned a major in-kind donor to the Clinton Global Initiative was simultaneously working for Rosatom while the decision for U.S. approval was pending before Hillary Clinton's department. Ultimately, her department and the Obama administration approved the transaction. The evidence shows the Clintons financially benefited from Russia, personally and inside their charity. At the same time, they were involved in the U.S. government actions that rewarded Moscow and increased U.S. security risks. Can you say treason? The intersections between the Clintons, the Democrats, and Russia carried into 2016 when a major political opposition research project designed to portray the GOP rival Donald Trump as compromised by Moscow was launched by Clinton presidential campaign and brought to the FBI. Can you even imagine the nerve of this woman? Glenn Simpson's Fusion GPS research firm was secretly hired by the Clinton campaign and Democratic Party through their law firm Perkins Coie. Simpsons then hired retired British intelligence operative Christopher Steele, whom the FBI learned was desperate to defeat Trump, to write an unverified dossier suggesting that Trump's campaign was colluding with Russia to hijack the election. Simpson, Steele, and Perkins Coie all walked Trump-Russia-related allegations into the FBI the summer before the election, prompting agents who openly disliked Trump to launch a counterintelligence probe of the GOP nominee shortly before Election Day. Simpson and Steele also went to the news media to air the allegations in what senior Justice Department official Bruce Orr would later write was a Hail Mary effort to influence the election. Congressional investigators have painstakingly pieced together evidence that shows the Clinton Research Project had extensive contact with Russians. Orr's notes show that Steele's main source of uncorroborated allegations against Trump came from an ex-Russian intelligence officer. Much of the collection about the Trump campaign ties to Russia comes from a former Russian intelligence officer, not entirely clear who lives in the U.S., Orr scribbled. Steele's dossier also relied on information from a Belarus-born Russian businessman, according to numerous reports and a book on the Russian scandal. Steele and Simpson had Russian-tied business connections too. While they formulated the dossier, Steele worked for the lawyers for Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska and tried to leverage those connections to help the FBI get evidence from the Russian aluminum magnate against Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort. The effort resulted in FBI agents visiting Deripaska in fall 2016. Deripaska told the agents that no collusion existed. Likewise, Simpson worked in 2016 for the Russian company Prevazon, which was trying to escape U.S. government penalties, and one of its Russian lawyers, Natalia Veselnitskaya, I can never pronounce her name. In sworn testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee, Simpson admitted he dined with Veselnitskaya both the night before and the night after her infamous meeting with Donald Trump Jr. at Trump Tower in June 2016. Simpson insists the two dinners, sandwiching one of the seminal events in the Trump collusion narrative, had nothing to do with the Trump Tower meeting, a claim many Republicans distrust. Whatever the case, there's little doubt that the main instigators of the Clinton-inspired allegations against Trump got information from Russians and were consorting with them during the political opposition project. This past week, we learned from Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman Richard Burr that his committee came to the same conclusions as the House. There is no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. But now there is growing evidence of Democratic connections to Russia. It's enough that former House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes believes a probe should be opened. Hear, hear. Absolutely. There is obvious collusion the Democrats had through Glenn Simpson and through Fusion GPS that they were talking directly to Russia, Nunes told Hill TV Rising in an interview to be aired Monday. Collusion can be criminal if it involves conspiracy to break federal laws, or it can involve perfectly legal, unwitting actions that still jeopardize American security against a frenemy like Russia. And of course, we know that this collusion involved criminal in the breaking of federal laws. We know that already. There is clear evidence now that shows Hillary Clinton's family and charity profited from Moscow and simultaneously facilitated official government actions benefiting Russia that have raised security concerns. And there's irrefutable evidence that her opposition research effort on Trump, one that inspired an FBI probe, was carried out by people who got information from Russia and were consorting with Russians. It would seem those questions deserve at least some of the scrutiny afforded the Trump-Russia collusion inquiry that is now 2+ years old. And it says, note, this story has been updated from the original to correct that Uranium One is a Canadian company and to clarify that House and Senate investigating committees have cleared the president. And yes, they have. There is no collusion. And I wish that people would get that through their head, and they would if the mainstream media would do their job and report as they should report. But they won't. We know they won't. It will just be Russia, Russia, Russia. All right, now let's go back and see what Q is wanting us to know here. Now, the next thing he says is define projection. Well, we know what projection is. We project onto others the same thing that we ourselves are doing. That is psychological projection. You, for example, if you are cheating on your husband or your wife, you may project it to them and accuse them of cheating when really it is you. That happens a lot. And that is just one of zillions of examples we could use. So, and we know that that is what the Democrats do. They project. And it's a very good ploy. It's used a lot. It is used a lot. How do you fix something that is known to be broken, corrupt? Well, it's kind of hard to fix something that's broken and corrupt and keep the same people in place, because if you keep doing the same things that you've been doing over and over, you're going to keep getting the same result that you've been getting over and over. So these people need to go. Do you first need to remove those responsible? And of course, Q is telling us he's asking a question. He's giving us the answer in the form of a question, but it's not. It's actually a statement. We need to remove those responsible, period. Think FBI, DOJ, exit list. And we know that that's exactly what the Trump administration has been doing. Cleaning house. We know this because of the exit list, and it is substantial. We know that. How do you restore the image, public faith of our most prestigious law enforcement institutions? How? Well, he tells us. Hold people accountable. Now, he's asking it as a question, but that is just something that Q does, but it's a statement. He's telling us we need to hold these people accountable. We're never going to restore the image of the FBI and the DOJ if we don't hold these people responsible. The public needs to see, first, it's been cleaned out. Second, the people have been held responsible. Then perhaps we can start having a little bit of faith in our justice system once again. Equal justice under the law. And he's asking, this is another thing, how do you restore the image? Well, first, you hold people accountable. Well, you get rid of the people that are responsible, number one. 2, you hold people accountable. 3, you give equal justice under the law. There shouldn't be one set of rules for the rich and the elite and those in office and another rule for everybody else, right? If it's a crime regardless of who commits that crime. And that's the way justice should be. It should be irregardless of who that person is, how much they own, what kind of influence they have in the world. If they do the crime, they got to do the time, regardless of who they are, right? And that will restore our faith in the system again, if we see that happening. So, equal justice under the law, hold people accountable. The battle begins, as seen today, with public opinion, and we know that, right? Otherwise, the Democrats would not be putting so much energy into public opinion in trying to control the media, control the narrative. They have to do that. They have to control public opinion because that is where the battle begins and ends. The fight to win public favorability. So Q is saying the battle begins with public opinion. The fight to win public favorability. The fight to control the narrative. How do Dems control the narrative? Well, we know that. They own the media, basically, right? The media is on their side. It's quite clear they're not on our side. They're not on the side of conservatives. They're not on the side of most Americans, because I think it's quite clear that most Americans are fairly conservative or middle of the road. They're not what the Dems are portraying right now. I mean, that's way out there. I don't know what percentage of people actually think like that. I think I would be quite frightened to find out. But how do the Dems control the narrative? And Q's about to tell us. Fake news media. Push of by design narrative, daily updates, 4 a.m. We've talked enough about that I don't need to go back to that. We know that they received their drops at 4 a.m. Via, as far as I know, from my understanding of what Q has said, from the CIA. They are receiving these drops at 4 a.m. and they are told what their talking points for that day will be. And if you can just sit there and switch channels and it'll be like you're just watching the same news, because they all say the same thing. They might vary a word or here or there, but they're all reporting basically the same thing at the same time. So we know it's coordinated, right? So the fight to control the narrative, fake news media is one way that they control it. Fake wood, Hollywood, echo of by design narrative, and by design narrative means the narrative that they have decided is the right narrative. They decide what is right, that they decide what the narrative is going to be, then they push it. Social media, stream, promote by design narrative, plus censor, block, ban of challengers of that narrative. And that's exactly what we have been seeing with all social media platforms. They either just kick you off the platform, or if you challenge this narrative, you are going to be blocked, censored, shadow banned, punished in some way. You can't challenge the narrative. They want that narrative there, and any dissenting voices will be silenced and are silenced. This is dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. It's an unbelievably dangerous road we're going down. I think we all see that because we're awake, but I don't think the general population sees it yet. I don't think they know what dangerous ground we're walking on. We're on very, very, very thin ice, very thin ice. It's like we are in the middle of a great lake or the ocean. Well, the ocean doesn't freeze over, but, and it's frozen, and all of a sudden the ice is cracking and you're realizing, this isn't going to end well. Well, that's what I'm seeing, because, when you block, when you are only putting forth one narrative and blocking all dissenting voices, wow. I mean, really, that's not freedom. It's not freedom. We are not free. We are anything but free at this point. I'm hoping we're going to be free. I really hope. I pray. But that is how they are controlling the narrative. Do they provide evidence to support their conclusions? Of course not. There is no evidence to support their conclusion. They make it up. They might have this much truth and then a lie packed around it. It's like offering somebody, it's a hot day, you're sweating, maybe you've been out cutting the grass, and you come in and you're really thirsty. And let's say I pour a nice cold pitcher of, I've got a pitcher of cold water that I have in the fridge of really pure water, and I pour it into a glass for you, and you can see the beads of condensation on it, and I hand it to you and I say, here you go. It's 99% pure, but there's 1% of arsenic in there. Are you going to drink it? I don't think you are. But I could say, well, I know, but 99% of it's pure. Nah, it's that little bit of arsenic that's going to kill you. Well, that's what they do. They pack all this, they pack this lie in amongst a little bit of truth. and then they say, here, drink. Well, yeah, that lie is going to kill you because literally, believing lies will always not end well. I think we all know that. All right. Okay. So do they provide evidence? No, they don't. POTUS, Russia, narrative, evidence? No, of course there's no evidence. If there was evidence, do you not think they would have found it in 2 years? Believe me, they were looking pretty hard. Yeah, they were trying to manufacture evidence. Whatever they could find against POTUS, they would come out with it. But they could find no evidence. There is no evidence. There never was. So, yeah, they don't care if there's evidence or not. None. Right. No evidence. POTUS racist narrative, evidence? Of course not. None. I don't believe for a moment that POTUS is racist. And I would like to hear, if there's any African Americans that are listening to this, I would like you to pipe up, really honestly, in the comments below. Do you feel that the president is racist? Do you feel that he has targeted you in any way? I really want to know. I do, because I can't pretend to know what you're thinking or what you're feeling. So I really want to know. What do you think about this? Do you think that he's racist? I mean, from what I've seen, especially before he was president, no one would ever, he would probably have been the last person anyone would have called racist. And I have seen no evidence that he is. But I'm not black. So, I really would like to hear from you guys that are, because I want to know, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What do you think about this? We want to know. Anyway, so is there any evidence that he's racist? Not that I can see. Now, whoops, I lost my place here, but we'll find it again. Here we go. All right, now POTUS, you can play this game all day long. None. So yeah, whatever they're throwing against Trump, it's not sticking. And why isn't it sticking? Because there's nothing there. There's nothing there. If it was, it would stick, because believe me, they've put all their energy into finding something. They can't. What do they count on? They count on you being ignorant is what they count on. Absolutely. How many experiments have been conducted by the CIA regarding mind control? A lot. Psych 101. If you hear and see something over and over again by multiple supposedly credible news agencies, elected officials, actors, actresses, documentaries on TV, movies, internet, social media, foreign press, etc., all pushing the same narrative conclusion, what happens? You believe it, right? Because most people, some of you know, and I do have a book about it, that I was in a cult, all right? Now, when I was there, you know what kept me there? I questioned the very first day. I questioned in my mind because I was well educated and I don't consider myself a stupid person. But you know what kept me there? I kept looking around and saying, look at all these people here. They all believe this. And then there's me, and I'm questioning. But if I'm wrong, if this is wrong, and I'm right, if I'm right, and this is wrong, then all these people are wrong too. And there's a lot of people here that I like and respect. There's a lot of really intelligent people in this room. Must be me. Must be me. That's exactly what we do, right? Because if you start questioning it, you could be sitting in front of, if you're not awake, and you're sitting in front of CNN and you're watching several news sources and you're hearing it on, television and from magazines and newspapers and everything else, everywhere you turn, you're seeing the same thing. But in your mind, you're questioning it. You think, well, if I'm right and this is not right, if I'm right and there's something wrong with this, then that means that all of these news places are wrong, and all these actors and actresses are wrong, and all these people on social media are wrong, and the news, everything's wrong. Well, what are the chances of that? No, it's me. It must be right. That's what we do. It's human nature. Absolutely. So, do factless claims become facts in the minds of many? Absolutely. And the more they show that they show us that everyone believes this. So if you don't believe it, there's something wrong with you. And they make you feel that way. And it's only human nature. You think, oh, all these people believe this. And some of these people are really smart. They've got multiple degrees and they're really smart people. And, who am I? Who am I to question? No, must be me. Must be me. That's what we do. Do they count on the fact that with work, family, stresses of life, etc., that the typical person does not have enough time in the day to research topics for themselves and therefore would believe narratives projected in the echo chamber without the need to provide facts or substance other than opinion? Absolutely. And that's why it's important for the alternate media, because you know what? Most people are busy, especially the younger people that are just starting out. They're married, they may have young children, they're both working, they have family obligations, they have soccer games, they may have church on Sunday, they may have any number of things that they are having to do and having to look after, and red tape and taxes and getting your car tags and this and that and groceries and laundry and cleaning the house and keeping the lawn cut and blah, 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 blah. So do you think that they have time to sit down every night and go through and figure out what is truth and what isn't? They don't. They don't. And how could you expect them to? So yeah, they will sit down in front of the news, they will grab that, and they will believe it because they don't have any energy left over to question it. All right. So, why do they try so hard to keep you divided by race, gender, class? Well, of course, because divided, we're much easier to conquer, right? They get us thinking that instead of us thinking that, hey, we're all Americans, black, white, yellow, whatever, we're all Americans, brown, we're all Americans. We all bleed red. We all love the country. We all want to do what's best for our families. We all are, fairly decent people that just want to work and get ahead and provide for our families and do the right thing. Most of us, right? But they divide us. They divide us and they make enemies of people that are not our enemies. The blacks are not our enemies. The whites are not the enemies of the blacks. The Latinos are not the enemy. A lot of them are coming looking for a better life. We just want them to do it legally. All right. Now, notice an increase in this push over the last 2 years. Oh yeah, I think all of us have. Are you stronger together, united, or divided? Of course we're stronger together. It's like, anyway, I'm not going to get into that, but that doesn't even need elucidating. We know that. Divided, we're weaker. United, we're strong. If you dare to challenge their narrative, are you cast out, banned by society as a threat, conspiracy theorist? Of course. Some of you have been cast out by your families. Maybe not literally, but they've written you off. They think that you are a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist that is off their nut. We know that. And that's how they do it. They shun you. That's how they do it in cults. If you start questioning the narrative, you will be shunned. And it literally drives people insane because all of a sudden, all your friends, all these people that were so loving towards you turn their back. And then as soon as you come in line and say, oh, no, I believe what you believe, then they're all back and loving. And see, that's how they control us. Are you cast out by a member of your own family? A lot of people have. A lot of people have been. It's sad. You've got one person in the family that follows Trump and the rest don't. Things don't go well for that member. Divided. Groupthink. Yeah, that's what they want. They want us to just go along with groupthink and allow the crowd to do our thinking. Very dangerous. They do not want you to think for yourself. A free-thinking, logical person who draws conclusions based on facts are, put simply, a threat to their control power grip. Of course. All they care about is control, i.e. power, right? With control comes personal gain. Absolutely. They use that power for their own personal enrichment. We've seen it time and time again because people will enter Congress with nothing. And then a couple years later, they're multimillionaires. I'm not sure how that happens. Well, actually, I do know how that happens. And I think you know too. Okay, they want to keep you poor and in need of government assistance. Yes, absolutely. Bigger the government, the more control they have, the more power they possess. When you are in need, you are weak. When you are weak, you are not strong. When you are not strong, you do not fight back. This is as real as it gets. They never thought she would lose. Why? See above regarding control. Transparency is the only way forward. I agree. Transparency is the only way to prove to the public that everything sold to you as truth was nothing but a fake narrative designed to keep you, the people, powerless and keep them in control, i.e., in power. Fake news, propaganda arm of the Democratic machine, or the Democrat machine, sole responsibility is to prevent the truth from ever being disseminated to the masses. Mass infiltration. Hey! No. Sorry. Cat intervention. All right. Scratching my really nice fabric chairs. Not happy about that. Okay, so let's go on. Sorry about the intrusion there. Mass infiltration everywhere. Transparency is the only way forward regarding public opinion. Prosecution is the only way forward regarding save and defend the rule of law. Prosecution and transparency is the only way to save our way of life. Q. One of the best Q posts I've ever seen because it just lays it out. All right. Now, I don't think that we need to expand on that any further. I think we all know perfectly well exactly what Q is trying to tell us here. And we're going to move on to the next post, which is this one. And I think there is just a couple more after this. All right. Now, this is the one we just looked at, and we're looking at this one now. Okay, now let's look at, first of all, Q has provided us a link, so let's go take a look at that. And interestingly enough, I had saved this to include in the Q-related news, but Q has already pulled this out for you. So here you go. Now this is the protests that are taking place in France that we hear nothing about over here. Now let me see here. Let me go back to ongoing protests in all cities in France. Mainstream media says a few protesters. Well, let's see if we think there's just a few protesters. Protests against Macron government, high taxes, labor laws, more than 1,000 arrested, hundreds wounded, multiple dead. Yeah, not hearing anything about that, are we? Now, let's come down here a little and let's look at this. Hopefully you can see this. Does that look like a few people to you? Yeah. Actually, there's a lot. There's a lot of protests, and some of the clips that I have seen are the police being horrendously violent towards people. So, let's go back to Q. All right. Would you know if not posted by individuals on social media? Now, what he's asking us, would we know? Would you and I know if that this was going on, if not for social media? No, we wouldn't, because there's nothing in the news. Nothing. Fake news attempting to control the narrative by not providing coverage? Of course, that's how they roll, right? Do the protests in EU go against the narrative that the majority of people are for globalism, open borders, and mass immigration? Yeah, that's why. That's why they don't want it in the news. Because it's going against their narrative that we all want globalism. We all want this immigration. We all want open borders. Of course. Number one, it's the dilution of citizen voice, dilution of citizen vote, dilution of national independence. Police turned against its own citizens. Citizens turned against its own police. People versus people. Controlled media prevents mass awareness. If the news doesn't report the facts, i.e. the truth, how do people get informed in order to be heard? They want to silence the people, localize disruption. So yeah, that's going on over in France, but they want to localize that. They don't want that getting out. Of course, people in France know what's going on, but the mainstream media doesn't report it. So how does anybody else know if they're not on social media, if they're not picking up on these people that are recording it and are pushing it out there so people will know? We wouldn't know, right? Okay, may have to have a little kitty intervention again, but hopefully not. All right, so localized disruption, target leaders of disruption, quietly take action. So they quietly take action against the leaders of that disruption to shut it down. They want it localized. They don't want the press to report on it because they want to keep it localized, and then they want to arrest those people. They take action against those people that are leading it to shut it down. Deploy scare tactics and political crosstalk. Control volume. The media no longer represents the will of the people. Think for yourself. Research for yourself. Trust yourself. Sheep no more. Q. So that is what you guys are doing, right? You are thinking for yourself. You're researching for yourself. That's probably why you're here. You're wanting to know, what is Q saying? What is really going on? You know you're not going to get that from the mainstream media, so you turn to alternative media. You turn to YouTubers or whoever is going to tell you the truth. Now, hopefully, I want to tell you the truth. I'm not always right, and whenever I can, I try to correct myself if I make a mistake. But that is why I always invite you to make comments below and correct me if I'm wrong on something, because like I said, I'm not concerned about being right. I'm concerned about being correct. All right, now let's go on. Now this is the next one, and Q has put here a link to an earlier post, and I've got a bigger picture of that so that we can look at it. And then well, actually, let's do that first, okay? Because that is first here, so let's look at this. This is the bigger graphic. Let's go there now. And let's make it bigger still. Okay, now this one was from December 11th of this year, well, of last year, actually, just this past December. And I'm sure we all remember this. Clock activated. Red castle, green castle, stage, 5-5, yes, and 5-5 means hear you loud and clear. Q. Now the Army Corps of Engineers, their logo is a red castle here, and they are located, interestingly enough, in Greencastle, Indiana. So that is where the red castle, green castle comes from, and it is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, a building strong, and we know that is who is going to build the wall because Q told us a long time ago, and has reiterated it just recently. So now down here it says, "You will not win," and that was from Pelosi. Pelosi said, "You will not win." Oh, yes, he will. You didn't think the largest military spending bill in history, fiscal year 2019, wasn't going to indirectly include funding for the wall, did you? No. Learn the Constitution regarding vested powers of POTUS regarding matters of national security. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi, perhaps you should learn that. Perhaps you should learn vested powers of POTUS that are, within the Constitution regarding national security. Maybe you should do that, Nancy Pelosi. Just a suggestion. Okay, this was planned and forecasted as the border funding solution from the beginning. Anons had the proof long ago, but shining a light back then would have defeated the primary purpose of showing the public the real objective of the Democrat Party of open borders, elimination of ICE, elimination of security, defending illegals over Americans, midterm election. These people are stupid. Q. All right. So that was big enough for us to see. So let's go back and finish the post. So then we have this from Donald Trump's Twitter, and let's go look at that. Excuse me, my nose is itchy. That must mean something, or it might mean nothing. Okay, President is on sound legal ground to declare a national emergency. There have been 58 national emergencies declared since the law was enacted in 1976 and 31 right now that are currently active. So this is hardly unprecedented. And that was Congressman Tom McClintock that said that. All right. So President Trump is wanting us to know that. Yeah, sounds good to me. Let's go back. Now, so he's telling us the stage is set. He's asking it as a question, but it's not a question. It's a statement. The stage is set. Public border wall fight necessary to bring public awareness regarding the true intentions of the Democrat Party. Anons knew? Yeah, Anons did know. We knew a long time ago that the Army Corps of Engineers was going to build the wall, that the money was in the military budget for the fiscal year 2019. We knew that, so the stage is set. And what he's saying is, this was all necessary. This staged wall fight was necessary so the public could see the true intentions of the Democrat Party. And we have. Have we not? I sure have. Anons knew. Narrative fight. So now it's a narrative fight. That's exactly what we're in. Dark to light. Q. So this is good news. Really, really wonderful news coming from Q these last 2 days. Now, let's go up to this. And I thought this was going to be, this video will get Q elected, but I was surprised. That's not it. So let's go take a look at this. This is the last drop that I have. It was 1913 tonight, and there may be others. Okay, so I will check when I get finished with this. I will check and see if there are more. I may bring it to you tonight, or I may wait until tomorrow if there are additional posts. Okay, let's take a look at this. And this is going to be Reagan.
Ours was the first revolution in the history of mankind that truly reversed the course of government, and with 3 little words: we the people. We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go, and by what route, and how fast. Almost all the world's constitutions are documents in which governments tell the people what their privileges are. Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do. We, the people, are free. This belief has been the underlying basis for everything I've tried to do these past 8 years. But back in the 1960s, when I began, it seemed to me that we'd begun reversing the order of things. That through more and more rules and regulations and confiscatory taxes, the government was taking more of our money, more of our options, and more of our freedom. I went into politics in part to put up my hand and say, stop. I was a citizen politician, and it seemed the right thing for a citizen to do. I think we have stopped a lot of what needed stopping. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited. There's a clear cause and effect here that is as neat and predictable as a law of physics. As government expands, liberty contracts.
President Reagan turned the tide against collectivism in the 80s. Unfortunately, we are face to face with the beast once again. We make inspirational, hand-painted oil-on-canvas paintings of President Reagan. You can have a genuine oil painting which you will cherish forever. A photo is just a point in time, but an oil painting is history. So, and I'm not sure if they have any other quotes here or not. Okay, and then these are the... All right, so that is Reagan quotes. As government expands, liberty contracts. Reagan, possibly one of the best orators ever in history. Definitely one of the best, anyway. I have heard him speak in person. I was extremely young, but it left a huge impression on me. Huge impression. All right, now, that is it for these posts. As I said, this brings us up to date, and you know, Q could have posted additionally since I have been talking, so I don't know, but this brings us up to date, and I will get us caught up. If there are additional posts from today, then I will get us caught up either later tonight or tomorrow. Now, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, stay well. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you guys, and I appreciate all your comments. I get such a kick out of some of you guys. You are real comedians, and then other people are, you know, add some really interesting stuff, and then there are other people that correct me, and I appreciate that as well. I don't ever take offense at that, ever, and I will never delete somebody for correcting me, ever, unless they are extremely rude and obnoxious. So there you go. Now, that's it. Talk to you later. Have a good night.